Today's video is all about Cardano, making the world better for all. Today, we're going to be doing a deep dive into this project, looking into some of the fundamentals, such as the team, the tokenomics, the utility, the overall value proposition, but more importantly, trying to figure out whether this project has what it takes to make it to our portfolio. So, you know what? Let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunity. And the question is Cardano an opportunity? Guys, today we're doing a deep dive. We're looking into this project because we need to. Obviously, one of the heavyweights, one of the OGs in this space. We need to be figuring out what it has been up to, and ultimately, if it can attract some of our liquidity, some of our capital. Are we willing to be buying the dip here on Cardano as we speak? Are the fundamentals in check? Of course, I'm going to be taking a retail perspective. Obviously, what that means is that we're going to be using the website, all the socials, and all the documentation provided by the team so that the average individual can feel comfortable, bullish to be buying and scaling into Cardano. We need to make sure all those fundamentals are well communicated. Okay, so let's get going, guys. We're going to use the main website as our main platform here, making the world better for all. What a great statement. Of course, this is what we want. However, guys, is Cardano doing what it needs to do to achieve such goals? Cardano is a blockchain platform for change makers, innovators, visionaries, and the tools and technologies required to create possibility for the many as well as the few and bring about positive global change. Guys, not bad. This is pretty good statement. Very pretty bold and pretty, strong, and I like that. But more importantly, guys, what is Cardano doing to back this up? Okay, so let's scroll down. Let's see what else they got here on the website. Our world is changing together. We can change it for the better. Okay, Cardano is a proof of stake, okay, which is a very important thing because, of course, that defines the mechanism, the type of consensus that they are using. It's a proof of stake, so which means that it's opposed to proof of work, proof of stake, secures the network via nodes, and those nodes have pools of liquidity. So, and obviously, if you are staking to a node, you get rewarded, and that's how usually the flywheel begins. The first to be founded on the peer-reviewed research. That's one of the things that we got to really set the tone for with Cardano is the fact that it has a very high, let's say, presence in the academia world. Right? It's basically founded or created within academia, and the founders and the team members, the core team members, the leadership is very involved in the world of academia. So it has a very let's say a feel of research, well researched project with lots of depth. And if you appreciate that kind of stuff, that is definitely something valuable. So you can see evidence-based methods. It combines peer-to-peer technologies to provide unparalleled security. Cool stuff. History, okay. Some statements here. Cardano restores trust in global systems, creating through science a more source transparent and sustainable foundation for individuals. Pretty good, of course. That's very typical of a blockchain layer one. Proof of stake are Ouroboros, the most environmentally sustainable blockchain protocol. Okay, so we got some cool stuff here that we got to talk about because Ouroboros is one thing, but it has various, how can I say, layers and implementations, not only to its tech stack, but even to its roadmap. And it's very evident that it is like a how can I say this, a nonlinear approach to development. Okay, so there are many things going on at once, which are constantly being updated and constantly being researched. So we'll talk about those milestones or those layers in a second. Define your possible change, the world, discover Cardano, people, purpose, research, lots of good stuff here, of course. We're going to talk about, I wonder what they have here for people. I have, let's see what they have here for technology. And the purpose is going to be very clear as we keep on going forward. So we can see the identities, the main identities here, which we're going to talk about a little bit in a second. We have Cardano, okay, which is the foundation. They have a full DAO and they have a treasury that's allocated to the DAO. So this is one of the most decentralized proof of stake layer ones out there at the current moment. Okay, guys, we have to understand that. Yes, there could be an argument via their nodes that there's lots of players and there's some big players holding tokens in nodes, and therefore based on their stake amount they hold a bit of control, and that's normal. Of course, it's gonna be coming. Basically, you vote on based on how big your wallet is. It is what it is, guys. However, from a reality perspective, Cardano's overall distribution is decently balanced. So that's one thing. And we have Emurugo and we got input output. Okay, so that's the main development team, let's say, behind Cardano, right? Input output. That's who actually creates the technological implementations behind Cardano. This is a very common thing to have a blockchain under one identity and the team, the core team or the team that is developing for the L1 to be separate in a different identity. So pretty good. We got Pragma and Intersect. This is their overall framework. Let's call it their internal ecosystem, basically the identities that are collaborating in such a way to make Cardano actually flourish. So that's that. And you can get involved. They're all over the socials. They got X, they got Reddit, they got this, a Telegram, but no Discord. Wow, right? No Discord, guys. You need to have a Discord. You got to get on that ASAP. Other than that, you got some links below. Oh, they do have a Discord support, but it's not up here. Okay, I see Discord. I should go check them out. Okay, so pretty good. Not too bad. Pretty clean website. And I'm gonna just throw this out there. The feel that I get and my understanding behind Cardano is just it is an L1. Okay, and what I like about it is its architecture is quite simple. Okay, and let's just see some of these tabs that I just opened. Its architecture is quite simple. So you can get more information, by the way, regarding its identities that are involved here in it. So, for example, Input Output is a research and engineering company and venture studio that builds blockchain and Web3 products to empower everyone and everywhere. Okay, so Emergo is a blockchain technology company and a founding identity of the Cardano blockchain that provides products and services. So you can see that there's layers. This is established in Japan where they have a presence. Okay, this is important. And then we have Intersect is a non-for-profit based organization for the Cardano ecosystem. It is basically a champion for distributed development and committed empowering Cardano community to build together and drive blockchain forward. So this is good. Getting that the reach, and this is Pragma is a member-based non-for-profit open source association for blockchain software project. It aims to foster an alternative open source ecosystem for Cardano and beyond. So the pretty good stuff. You got a lot happening here from that who we are. So let's get rid of this. I think we covered that good enough, well enough. The technology, Cardano brings a new standard in technology, open and inclusive. So again, you're going to see a lot of this vocabulary and these ideas across many blockchains, especially open blockchains. Cardano is a blockchain platform built on groundbreaking Oracle's proof of stake consensus, which we already talked about. It has a Haskell programming language. It's a very unique language. However, it does have other languages compatibilities with other blockchains and programming languages, which is good. The research, guys, let's spend a moment here, guys. They have a very different approach to development. It's a research first, research focused, then implementation, and then creating new solutions objective. So they spend a lot of time, in other words, in the research phase. They don't rush things. And this is one of the biggest criticisms for Cardano is that it's slow moving. But you got to admit, Cardano, for what it produces in comparison to other blockchains, Cardano is very solid. It has a good track record, has zero downtime pretty much, and it works well. And scalability is not an issue, right? And upgradability is not an issue. And leadership is there. So we have to understand that the research perspective is a preventative measure for future mishaps. And if you're an engineer or know anything about engineering, you try your best to do what you can prior to actually implementation, right? You have pre-planning strategies. You have obviously the research, extensive research before you actually implement. So it's not a bad approach, it's just a different approach. It's not the only blockchain that takes this approach, but it's one of the largest and one of the most known projects that takes this approach. Okay, so whether you like quick shiny products or not, it doesn't matter. Diversify your portfolio and ensure that you understand that there are some software solutions that take this approach and it has a value proposition behind it. Okay, so that's that. Let's see what else we got. We got a white paper. Okay, it's a full-on doc, okay, which is like a Git book style. Is it driven by Git book? It might be not, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's a Git book style, which I appreciate. You guys know I like it. There's a lot here, guys. So just a reminder, I'm trying to take a retail perspective. By the way, timestamps are going to be below, so you can navigate this a lot faster. And not only that, I'm going to have the infographic towards the end of the video where you can use that as a summary going forward. It is downloadable, it is high quality, so you can zoom in and zoom out type of thing. So you can download that and you can keep it in your back pocket if you ever want to be reminded about what Cardano is. I'll share that with you after a couple more of this a little while. We're going to do it at the end. We'll summarize and I'll show you the infographic. Okay, so what is a blockchain, guys? We're not going to go that deep and we're not going to go that far back. Right now, I'm assuming that a lot of us have already done a bit of research into what is a blockchain, what is a cryptocurrency, and what is proof of stake. Okay, I kind of mentioned it briefly. Cardano tracking pools, types of wallets that you could use. If you click this, you're going to get a lot of information. Okay, so mobile wallets, desktop wallets, where to store your data. So you get a lot of support, even newbie support, which is great. Staking calculator and what is a smart contract. These are all very basic and how can I say fundamental understandings that are required for you to know the asset class of what crypto is. Okay, it's very important, guys. Like, this is a deep dive on Cardano, not a deep dive on blockchain technology. So, if you're interested in more, join the Discord, guys. We have tons and tons of resources. I'm going to be releasing a crypto academy at any moment where you're going to be able to get structured lessons on everything crypto, including the fundamentals, as I mentioned. Okay, guys, but in the meantime, we need to make sure that we understand these basic concepts. Cardano nodes, these are nodes that validate the transactions and they get staked up with liquidity. And you can see that you got your staking pools and you have the various nodes. Cardano nodes, how does it work? Producing a block. They are the ones that do the calculations. And nodes make the calculations happen in order to produce the nodes. But those nodes, have pools, right? And so on. As you can see, there's staking pools and more, and you can be a part of that. You can even create your own staking pool. That's very possible. So delegation at the end of the day is who run their own staking pool, agree with the third party, run private, and delegate to other staking pools. What I want you guys to understand is that this pool idea and these node ideas are the ideas that bring centralization to a proof of stake mechanism consensus. And the reason being is that if an individual has strength or has voting power more than another person, it's because they have more staked, right, into a pool. And that is how you're measured, how you're able to vote on certain things during the voting process under the DAO, right, or under governance, right? So there's proposals, and then you vote, but the person with the more tokens gets the vote. The person with the most tokens staked get more of those options to vote, right? Their voting power is extended. So this is where a lot of people criticize this proof of stake, and Cardano does have a few nodes, with large nodes with large players. And we'll talk about the numbers in a second, okay? Let's keep on going down. I'm trying to get it. It is a UTXO model. Okay, so it's an extended UTXO model. For those of you who don't know, Cardano, like Bitcoin, is an unspent transaction output UTXO based blockchain, which utilizes a different accounting model and from other account based blockchains like Ethereum. Cardano implements an innovative, okay, extended unspent transaction output UTXO model, which was introduced by Alonzo Upgrade to support multi-asset smart contracts. So overview. So in the UTXO model, a transaction has input and output, where the inputs are output from previous transactions. A transaction can have previously unspent transaction output as its input. So it has a level of consensus for its unspent, again, overview, extended unspent transactions output. So this is where you get the best of both worlds from a UTXO model perspective and from a proof of stake or a UTXO, which is usually proof of work, and a proof of stake, which usually in this case has its unique consensus. But from a UTXO model perspective, this is great to see the hybridness that Cardano is. Okay, so here you get a bit of a transaction, so a bit of a cycle, input, and transaction, output. It's mostly to control unspent, right? That's what's most important here. Called UTXO set manage. So the user's wallet manage the UTXO. I'm trying to figure out as I'm here live, Cardano's extended UTXO model. Difference between UTXO outputs can carry almost arbitrary data, okay, and address the value, makes scripts much more powerful. So this is great. This is interesting because now we're seeing the best of both worlds and how we can see and remember, UTXO is one of the most battle-tested models out there because Bitcoin runs off of it. Right. And all the OGs coming out of the forks of Bitcoin, like Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash and many others. I know I'm missing many others there that use the UTXO model. Okay, so these are important. These are yeah, these are great. This is good. So powerful feature model is that fees required for validating transaction can be predicted precisely prior to posting it. That's good. This unique feature not founded in account-based models. Account-based blockchains like Ethereum are indeterministic, which means that they cannot guarantee the transaction's effect on chain. Okay, so basically it becomes a little bit more transparent and predictable with the fees. This uncertainty presents risk of monetary loss and so on and so forth. So pretty good. So to summarize, UTXO offers greater security, smart contract execution cost predictability, without unpleasant surprise and more powerful parallelization. So again, the best of both worlds. This is interesting stuff, okay, guys. So I'm not going to get into too deep here. Just to summarize, UTXO models are models that are used usually again for Bitcoin and such, and then all of a sudden we have it being used in other blockchains. In this case, we're seeing it used in Cardano, and that Cardano is also a proof of stake, which is introduces the layer of nodes for scalability purposes. That's why UTXO models are not easily scalable. So they need, in this case, Cardano uses nodes and the proof of stake layer to create those nodes and create that scalability. All right, so pretty good. A little bit of their architecture, design rationale. I don't know if we have more here. This is again very academia, which means that they're gonna have a lot. So scalability, scalability. They have all their layers here, which we're going to talk about in a second, like Hydra and such. They have lots of research done in supportive data, interoperability. Again, Cardano's aims to support cross-chain EVM compatibility and many others in order to, attract liquidity, sustainability, CIP 1694 governance mechanism, and that's one of the biggest strong points behind Cardano is its consensus because once tokens are mostly in circulation, right? Usually you ask yourself, okay, then what is the token used for? And most of the times it's okay, transaction fees and delegating governance options to people, so which is pretty good. Development phases and eras, this is where things get a little interesting. So we have different eras, so the ledger era, but this is quite old. This is what I would want to basically focus on is the Byron, the Shelley, but I'm not going to use this page. I'm going to use their main page. You can see here you have the different phases, and then a lot of them are still kind of being worked on at the same time, right? So we got the Byron, which is old, the Shelley, fine, that's pretty, these are pretty done. Decentralization, obviously there's always improvements for decentralization. Smart contracts are already there. Scaling, Basho, could be still a work in progress, and Voltaire governance, again, operating governance and so on. And that is still a big part of what Cardano is all about. And that's Charles himself, the face behind Cardano, and maybe not so much lately because he did say that he was going to take a step back just a little bit and let them do their thing. But you can see what is the Cardano roadmap. The roadmap is a summary of Cardano's development, which has been organized in 5 years. Again, the Byron, the Shelley, the Gauguin, Bayesheau, the Voltaire. Each era is centered around a set of functionalities that will be delivered across multiple code releases. And again, it's a work in progress here, guys. As they improve, they keep on layering up in the improvements. And this is a healthy way to have a vision but no roadmap. But however, roadmaps are always great, especially when you're speculating, because you want to know exactly where they're putting their efforts. So I would say this, a roadmap, to define what is being worked on in the next little while would be great, but unfortunately they don't have one. Okay, so that's that. About hard forks, upgrades explained, and there's a lot of different things here, guys. Like the different eras, the different things, like the Byron to Shelley, what happened. There's the Alonzo, guys, one of the bigger ones that if you've been around, you've heard of this many times. And then the Vassal, these are all upgrades. These names and these things are all marketing for different things, right? And I recommend that you go and read them all, right? Scripts in Cardano Ledger and a Plutus Evaluator, speed improvements, guys. I've heard this. I heard Charles talk about these all the time in his lectures. And the best source to learn about all these different upgrades and being explained is to listen to Charles. He has his own channels and his own, you know, let's talks that you can listen to that will definitely give you and he's great at explaining what he's created here or what they've created here. So go check him out. I'm not going to get into too much detail here because again, this video is going to take forever, but there is a lot of implementation and work being done. It's slow and steady because of their research first approach, but it is what it is, guys. At least there's clarity, there's documentation, there's research, there's evidence, and that's all you could really ask for a team. And the proof is in the pudding. Cardano's blockchain is one of the best running blockchains at the current moment as far as sustainability. You got to admit that no matter what you feel, Cardano's blockchain has been solid. And the governance overview, this is what a lot of people love of it, because if you think about it, and if you know the numbers, which we'll talk about in a second, I think about 60 something percent of the current circulating supply, I think it's about 65% if I'm not mistaken. We'll touch on those numbers again, but it's a lot, are staked. So which means that majority of people of the circulating supply feel like they need to just stake up and earn rewards passively because they trust Cardano's future. And for me, that's great. So you basically consent. Why bother? Pioneer entries Cardano. Okay, so this is the governance model and so on, and so on. So it's all based on membership, and the more you stake, the more you get, and you're able to propose and so on and so forth. And they have it all set up for that. They want to achieve a level of decentralization via the organization itself, which is good, right? So there's many ways to decentralize. Token distribution obviously is one of them. The governance obviously be another, and their tech stack being another. So I'm expecting their tech stack to expand to some sort of, let's call it DPIN option, or a partnership with a DPIN protocol or something like that, because eventually as the smart contract platforms grow, they need to start providing compute and storage solutions in a decentralized fashion, not using AWS and all that kind of stuff. So this is where I'm expecting Cardano eventually to kind of say, okay, how are we going to support more robust applications that require the compute and the storage. Okay, so I'm keeping my eye on it, and I've seen this in this space quite a bit. This is usually the next step after the L1 establishes its grounds, its foundations. Okay, so that's pretty good. So there's a lot. There's a FAQ, there's a glossary, and there's all kinds of different stuff here. I'm curious about their FAQ. Let's see what they got here on the FAQ before we move on. Because their tokenomics and such is quite easy. It's not hard at all. Okay, so FAQ, taking pools, where do I get support? What is the Marlowe? There's a lot of different things here. How is Marlowe different from Plotus? These are all the different things that they got going on. Both languages for written smart contracts. You got lots of support here with regards to Q&As and some of the most popular ones, right? What language does Marlo support? As you can see, this is JavaScript and TypeScript. These are one of the those are two of the languages that I've seen in the last little while to make it a little bit more open for developers, because those are very common languages and easy to learn, and that's going to reduce the friction to see Cardano's ecosystem growth. Guys, at the end of the day, we've seen some major implementations in the last little while for Cardano, such as Night, right? So Midnight has been doing well. Privacy layer, privacy project. It's actually a separate chain that uses Cardano's technology. If you missed out on that deep dive, on the Night deep dive that I did, I think it was 2 weeks ago, go check it out. It's in my deep dive playlist. Links are in the description. And that way you can see one of the most hottest projects that are deployed on Cardano. And I did a deep dive on that one so you can see. And it's developed by the in and out, input output team as well, which means that it's native, right? It's a native, it's not even an L2, it's its own blockchain that uses Cardano's part of Cardano's stack, okay? And I explain it very well in the deep dive, the midnight deep dive, okay? So that's that, guys. Wow. Now, we have to admit, from a tokenomics perspective, even if we went back here, there's not really much happening here, right? And a lot of, like, usually you see, the a pie chart, emission schedule, and because it's so mature, and because all its focuses on is rewarding people for staking, you got to ask yourself why. Why does Cardano want to reward people for staking? It's because staking takes coins or tokens out of circulation, right? And that eventually issues rewards, and that is how they're going to distribute. Plain and simple. You stake, you get rewarded. You stake, you get rewarded to vote. You stake, you get rewarded because you get passive income, right? And you stake, you get rewarded because ultimately you're providing some stability to the network and securing the network in such a way that Cardano will continue to flourish. So it's almost like a flywheel in itself, that if you help out, you get rewarded in many ways. And because of that, you're able to become part of the organization through voting, right? So, it's one of the best things right now in this space is to see decentralization in many facets, okay? Let's see what else we got here. Let's check out their socials real quick, and we'll talk about their tokenomics. Honestly, it's not that complicated, and that's what I love about Cardano and mature projects, because there's no complication there. They've done it, they've been around, so they've went over the complicated parts. Usually, when you're talking about a fresh new launch, it gets a bit complicated. What else do we have here? We have empowering Cardano. So this is their socials, empowering the architects of the future, empowering the Cardano ecosystem, and providing blockchain solutions for enterprise, non-for-profits, and Swiss foundations. Guys, the reality is that they almost, like, they encompassed a bit too much here. And now I'm curious is if the Cardano Foundation, or if they have, yeah, the Cardano Foundation. So if you go and visit their actual, if I do this, I hope I don't open up in, I want to open up in a new tab. They have the Cardano Foundation, and then you have, let this load, Cardano itself, right? So pretty interesting, because ultimately when you look at this, right, this is the community page. This is where you're looking at the Cardano community, more active, meaning you're seeing what they got going on, and you can see this is probably the most important. So the foundation has their identity, which keeps you up to date with what Cardano Foundation is doing, and we'll probably see some overlap in both accounts, right? But this represents the foundation and what they got going on. And you can see a Cardano governance, different reading material, and so on. So good social presence. Let's give them a follow. Why not? Why not give them a follow? I follow the main account anyway, but let's give them a follow. And you can see we got Midnight following them there as well. But yeah, that's that. And go check them out anyways. Go give them a follow. And they got almost, yeah, 800,000 followers, which is great. But then if you go to the community one, you go to the community page, they got 1.4 million followers on the community page. And they got various posts like this: incredible energy from community in Ghana. Guys, this is a lot of what Cardano does as well, as far as outreach or implementation and partnerships. They partner with other countries, particularly the ones out of Africa and South America and Central America. So what happens here is gives them a place to test, a place to implement and scale further on bigger populations. So they're right now the Cardano Summit CLE 2026 was resounding success, bringing over 40 people together to learn, build, and success the future of DeFi and governance on Cardano. So pretty good. This is part of their initiatives, obviously, to bring software solutions to other countries across the world. Interoperability is essential. Some statements there, and some good stuff. Oracle layer, and so on and so forth. So, guys, overall, you gotta spend some time here, a little bit of fun, a little bit of this, but from a typical L1 like this, you're going to get a lot of different things like Cardano Africa Tech Summit. Pendant announces Cardano integration to Layer Zero. Cardano newsletter, Spotlight Creator. So you're not getting that buzzy degen type of feel in crypto, which is a breath of fresh air right now, to be honest. Like what happened to the tech, and this is where what a typical tech focused organization should look like. No fluff, no nonsense. A bit of fun would be great, to be honest, but at the same time, focus. A building for institutional adoption. Apply you get what I mean, guys. If you want institutional adoption, you're not gonna have all kinds of garbage on your socials. You got to be focused, right? You want things to look a little bit institutional. And again, this is part of one of their initiatives is getting involved with communities across the world, in Ghana and in Africa and such, which is great, right? It gives them that reach and that feel of humanity. Okay, good stuff here on their socials, lots of engagement. And if we get right into the team here, we'll spend some time here. And then we'll recap a little bit of the tokenomics. Like I mentioned, it's a little bit easy to go through because if we go right here to the overview, and we'll go back to the team in a second. Rid of this, the chart. So you can see their market cap is around 10 billion. Okay, current market cap. So it's a large. And trading volume across the space has been a little bit rough, but you can see it's circulating supply versus its max supply. Its circulating supply is 81% more or less already out there. And out of that 81%, a good portion of it is already staked up. Okay, which is good. It's out of circulation in that regard. So it's very mature, and the only way tokens are going to get emitted is through again foundation initiatives, but mostly through awards for staking rewards. Okay, that's very typical. It's clean, it's clear. Their emissions is based on again on the activity of the nodes and so on. And if we go back to the team, let's go back to the team page. Might as well. We could see that Charles Hodgkinson is the first one on the list. He's the main dude that a lot of us know and appreciate his efforts in communicating what Cardano is all about and so on. And then we have others, right? We have others. So we'll talk about these others real quick. Let's do that. So they have the Cardano Foundation page, the community, and they also have the foundation, right? So there's two. Here you have 172 associate members. Here you have no members in the community because this is made by the community. So make sure that you're following or looking at the right page. If you stick to the foundation, right, and you start looking at what they got going on here, and you go to people, right, you got a big team, guys. Again, you got 172. It's not the largest. I've seen larger, but sometimes size doesn't matter. It's quality, right? And in this case, you're seeing that there's a lot of talent of various sorts, right? Senior research, Web3 professional. We got many others. Board member, angel investor. Okay, what else? Full stack engineer, business development, attorney, Buenos Aires. We got chief operating officer, and many others, okay, with various founder and CEO, Web3 Capital, and this, lots of Web3, lots of this and lots of that, which is great. But we need to focus on the core team just a little bit, just to see where our leadership is at. Okay, so if we go into the leadership, we got Jeremy Wood, entrepreneur, Osaka, Japan. Input, output. I just want you to make that clear, okay? Indiana University. And if we look at what they got going on, input output. Remember, this is the core team organization, executive assistant at Ethereum. If you guys remember, this is an individual that people were happy to see. Even Charles himself being part of the Ethereum chain, and you can see part of educate Osaka education. So we got lot happening here, and Ethereum. So history. This person doesn't need to put much more, right? So this individual has been in this space since 2013, building on Ethereum. Okay, managing day-to-day operations. There's no more necessary, and then obviously input output being here with Ada for so long, right? So over 10 years. So it is what it is. Okay, so let's move on, and their experience, just to see what their education is. Bachelor of Arts and English. Very interesting to see that. I would have how can I say teaching? What are they teaching? I'm curious. The teacher here. Classroom teaching, communication, entrepreneurship. Okay, let's see. Let's see what else we got for the team. We got I'm gonna butcher this name, but Aguilos. I'm assuming I'm doing this right. Part of the input output team as well. Chair in cybersecurity, associate professor at this university. It seems he's Greek. It seems like the name and this education or professor, assistant professor, Athens University of Connecticut, and so on. And yeah, so a very high academic individual. I'm trying to see where his skills or his education will tell us what's his background a little bit, because I can see he's just a professor everywhere, but he focuses on cybersecurity, so that's important, obviously. Um, but a little bit more. I want to know more about him. Unfortunately, he doesn't put much as far as where he went to school. So it is what it is. It's not necessary to know where he's went to school, but it is necessary in the sense to see where he's formally educated and where his interests are and where he's focused on. So still very, very great. Privacy, security and privacy. Obviously has some sort of tech background for him to be a professor at that rate, at that caliber. Okay, so let's move on. And then uh, we got this dude, Romain. This individual, in my opinion, seems to be one of the backbones of the Web3 architecture. Okay. And you can see that based on Web3, PhD in computer science, Wharton. Yeah, let's keep on going now. Let's see what else he's got here. Lead investor on Herd DAO. We have group chief technology officer at, again, Input Output, founder, blockchain expert, founder. So he's everywhere within the blockchain space. And education, you can see that it seems like he's PhD computing, distributed systems, mobile, and so on, which is pretty good. Telecom, and looks like he's from Paris. He's French. Okay, so Wharton Executive Education and Wharton, yeah, education. So pretty good, well educated, lots of Web3 experience, and so on. And then we got to talk about again Charles. Like, there's no real doxing on Charles Hodgkinson on LinkedIn, but he's everywhere else, guys. Literally everywhere else. He's one of the most well-known individuals in this space, like top 3, top 4 individuals in this space. So I highly recommend that you cycle back here and you go check out his socials. So if, for example, if you click here, his X account, continue, we can go see what he's got going on, what he's got posted. This is him. He has a bit of sense of humor lately, which I appreciate. And you can see he's on he does his podcast, he does his vlogs or whatever you want to call them. He does all in Japan. The guy's everywhere. He's a fade. Midnight is, again, he's pushing midnight lately, talking about midnight. So the dude is everywhere. He's a great face for the community, and so on. I'm not too crazy about this, but I got to do some research on how this is playing out. Because again, when I see Google Clouds and stuff, I start to say to myself, centralized, right? And choke point. That's how I look at it. And okay, so again, leadership is strong, guys. You got to do your due diligence though, and make some decisions regarding, yeah, are there any gaps? It doesn't look like that the team is 10 out of 10. All right, guys, pretty good stuff here. Okay. So now let's get into the infographic, because I think that an easy summary can be applied here. Okay. And why I call it easy is because ultimately this project is a very easy project to understand. It's not that complicated. So I think that it's fair. And the reason why it's not that complicated is because the reality is it came out at a time where complication wasn't necessary. Okay. And still not necessary. Just a lot of projects that come out nowadays feel the need to complicate things. So let's get into some of the detail here. Number one, tokenomics wise. Again, market cap is around 10 billion. Volume lately has been pretty okay. 4% of the market cap is what I like. No less than that. Things get very stagnant. The supply is currently about 36 billion, which is around 81% more or less. And then we have the max supply, which is at 45 billion. And we have the FDV, the future yeah, valuation, fully diluted evaluation is 12.74 billion. So is it overvalued at its full circulating point? I don't think so. I think it's fine. I think the fact is that based on the amount of tokens that they have in their max supply, they're expecting this ecosystem to be so huge to justify the supply. So that's not bad. And as these tokens get staked, that supply is just literally going to get out of circulation, which is okay. Let's see how they go. So let's take a look at their ecosystem. So I started off with the best, or let's put it this way: I started off with the most hyped or the most interest at the current moment. Midnight, guys, go check it out. A lot of people loving Midnight. Mind Swap. This is where things start to quickly get into a level of okay, where's Cardano at? We had the Sunday swap. Now we have Mind Swap. We have DJED, USDA. These are all type of stable coins, of course, USDA. And then we have Hydra and Atala and all these other various protocols out there. However, what we have to understand is that their ecosystem has been heavily criticized in the past for being a slow mover with very little growth. This needs to change. And I think that Midnight is bringing that step forward. Okay, so part of their ecosystem is their internal ecosystem. So, not just their applications that are being built alongside or on top of it. Cardano Foundation is part of its ecosystem. Why? Because it's a value proposition. Its DAO is very strong. It's very integrated within the organization to the point that the founders could step away. Think about that, guys. Charles just made a statement a couple of weeks ago saying that it's time for him just to slowly back off a little bit, not in a negative way, but in a positive way. Why? Because Cardano doesn't need leadership anymore. Why? Because it's a self sustaining organization, a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization. So that is one of its core ecosystem value propositions. So that's very important. Input output basically is the protocol and research and development phase of Cardano or identity of Cardano, and the commercial development of Emurgo, which is obviously great because again, it's trying to tap into not only the non-for-profit but also the institutional and the commercial aspect of things. And that's going to allow them to create software solutions to tap that area of liquidity. Okay, so that's that. So I give them 7 out of 10 because they still have a bit of proving to do with regarding their ecosystem. You can't come up with their DEX is not even the best, that type of thing. But Midnight is looking pretty cool, and it's still in its infancy. Let's be real about that. Still very, very new. Now, if we talk about their utility, the utility of the actual token, which is ADA itself. What does ADA do? Transaction fee payments, smart contract execution fuel, staking collateral, securing the network, like I mentioned many times, governance and voting power, also mentioned, treasury funding mechanism. So rewards, so the burning rewards or the burning fuel gets as income gets put back into treasury and gets put back into rewarding for the pools. So this is how the flywheel works. And at the end of the day, the treasury needs some funding, needs to have some grease to get everything paid and going. So which is great. They actually have a system going, and we hope to start to see some profitability out of Cardano. Roadmap. So their roadmap is quite vague, as I mentioned, and that's why I'm giving it 6 out of 10. However, their constant updates or in their constant communication about their upgrades is a sense of relief. Which what I say here is this: as long as they are giving us these updates, we can kind of say at least they're doing their due diligence. Okay, this is very important. Due diligence. And ultimately, not really giving us an end date, but we can see that there's an idea. So Hydra, layer 2 state channels. This is something that started around 2024, maybe earlier, but this is where it came out. And we're focusing since 2024 to finish it up right around this year of 2026. And the same thing with Mithril signature aggregation. We have Paris settlement upgrade. These are all upgrades that are in the roadmap that have been brought forward through governance. So Eliod consensus redesign for 2025 in the future. So these are things that are currently on the table and trying to be focused on, and those various phases that we've talked about in the past. As they go through these phases, we're going to see some of these upgrades, come to fruition, and not only that, be more introduced based on the architecture upgrading as well. So the more the architecture grows, the more things can be added to the Cardano tech stack, which is useful, right? Now the team, guys, I spoke about the team. There's a lot of people there. Obviously, Charles and his squad, they're well qualified and they have a history and they have a future, obviously, in tech. Clearly, the team, visionary and industry experience, undoubtedly. Operational and ecosystem scaling, they've done it and they are currently doing it. A little slow, but they're doing it. Academic and cryptographic experience, that is clear, especially with the academic, okay, aspect of things. Engineering and infrastructure execution, and has been state of the art, guys. Like, you got to admit, their engineering so far is probably the most stable project as a L1 out there. Okay, there's none that is more stable, in my opinion, than Cardano. Well, and that is as decentralized. That's the drawback. The more decentralized you become, the more instability you achieve. And it's this trilemma aspect. And bit by bit, we're starting to see the trilemma concept slowly dissipate because we're finding software solutions layer by layer to improve the scalability and the decentralization and so on and so forth. So social, not bad. 1.4 million followers with modern engagement. I would have liked to see a little bit more there, but guys, it's not exclusive to Cardano. Right now, the space is a little bit in hibernation. Active Telegram, X, and LinkedIn presence. No Discord. I'm going to correct myself. I saw a little Discord link at the bottom of their website. They didn't promote it like the others, so I might have just slipped my eye and I wasn't able to see it. But at the end of the day, it seems like they do have a Discord. I would like to go check that one out, guys. So go check it out. Tell me what you think about their Discord. Is it a great community? Is it engaging? Is it monitored? Is there a bunch of scammers? What is it all about? But a Discord is necessary. So maybe 9.5 for out of 10 for not making it clear that they have a Discord and putting a link right next to their other account logos, which would have been ideal for communication purposes. By the way, their website is nice and clean and well documented. You got to admit. Okay, so that's something that we have to appreciate with from a social perspective, a well balanced website with a Gitbook style or a Gitbook itself documentation for searchability and the ease to consume the information is amazing. So good for them. Tokenomics, simple. Guys, there's nothing much to say here. They usually have a lot to say, but emissions is based on stake and rewards, period. Treasury is run through the DAO. Amazing. So any treasury funds, which is usually right around a billion to 1.5 billion Cardano, and it also varies, right, depending on the epoch, right? But at the end of the day, the treasury is run through the DAO. So it's not like, Charles or one dude is calling the shots on all the treasury. That is what a decentralized organization should look like. And guys, I do deep dives. I have over 100 and 100 and I don't even remember how many, guys, but I have 140 deep dives or something like that right now under my belt, and I've been here doing this for a while. And the reality is that a lot of these projects do not have a DAO that is completely decentralized, right? So this is a bit of a concern, in the sense that they don't have governance, right, for their treasury. So who calls the shots on those tokens? And that is a level of centralization when the tokenomics are centralized. So beautiful to see here for the Cardano ecosystem is to see this type of tokenomics. I like it. Even though there's still more tokens that need to be emitted, the emission is based on staking. So as people stake, they're taking tokens out of circulation, which is going to increase or decrease the dilution or increase the value. through scarcity, and then because of the emissions, they're going to introduce a bit of tokens, which would be dilution, which again balances the tokenomics. And then if there's a continuing incentive for staking, the emission is going to be restaked. Guys, the flywheel is great. It's fine. It's clean, clear, and that's how tokenomics should be. Okay, so relationships. This is where there's a lot happening, but I'm going to try to summarize. They have three different sectors: public sector, and for me, that's looking at governments abroad, such as Ethiopia, Ghana, and Georgia, the government of Georgia, the Ministry of Educations that they deal with out in Africa. That is, those are big. Then you have the corporate sector, which also includes is like enterprise, right? And they're talking to New Balance, World Mobile, ScanTrust, and a few others, right? And this is how they kind of are expanding their reach within that sector. And then the academic, University of Edinburgh, University of Wyoming. They have Tokyo Institute of Technology, which is big, guys. They're big on tech. We know that. So ultimately, I think their relationships in these sectors are giving them a diverse set of relationships that will allow them to keep some doors open in all facets, and that allow Cardano to expand in these facets a lot easier, frictionless when the time comes, offering them software solutions. This is great. Okay, so I like that. 9 out of 10 here, because I would like to see something a little bit more, let's say larger scale. And for me, that would be important, right? A little bit more. I think New Balance from a corporate is probably the biggest. Small governments, okay, that's fine. But from a strength perspective to actually put the technology into play, I would like to see something bigger. There's still some room, I feel. Exchanges, guys, it's listed everywhere. Okay, go check out the links are in the description. Ascendex, I got links to Ascendex, KSEX, BTCC, and BitNex. Guys, go check them out. Right now, they're giving us great trading bonuses for new signups, so take advantage of them right now. Links are in the description. But guys, if you're going to be trading based on exchange listings, there is none. They're listed everywhere. Okay, so that's one of the things. If you're already listed on Coinbase and Kraken and Binance, guys, the rest of them are great too. But if you're listed on those three already, the volume that you're going to get, especially for a large cap, is already established, and the liquidity across these exchanges is already established. So don't trade exchanges anymore. Don't think about that right now. The benefit is that you're highly liquid across many platforms, and that's a bonus for sure. Okay, guys. So let's talk about my overall um, verdict. Now, my verdict is more of a summary. It's not just a verdict, right? I try to make it in such a way that we can focus on, the truth, and just summarize a little bit of what I couldn't fit in those other categories. So it is an L1. It uses an EUTXO model. It is a proof of stake. Okay, so that's important. Now, 60 to 65% of circulating Cardano ADA is actively staked. Okay, which means that right now, what I said was the total us in circulation is approximately 81%. Of that 81%, 60 to 65% is staked already, guys. That is a lot. That means that those are out of circulation. Very little risk of dilution. Yes, they can get unstaked out of the nodes. And if there's a queue, it will take some time. And if there is no queue, which I don't remember, but if there's no queue, fine. And yes, they could be sold eventually. But being staked shows intent. The intent is that people don't need their tokens right now, and they rather earn passive income, getting rewarded via Cardano or ADA tokens. That's great. So this is the centralization regarding the pools. Okay, so 100 pools collectively control 45 to 55%. Okay, and what that means is that, okay, there is levels of centralization. No project out there is completely 100% decentralized. This is one thing that we need to understand in the Web3 space. A lot of people don't understand this, and a lot of people talk, fallacies when they talk about centralization, decentralization. Even Bitcoin, okay, has a level of centralization. It is not 100% decentralized. And whoever tells you otherwise does not know what they're talking about. Okay, so, and it's very, very clear that we have to understand that even For example, in Bitcoin's case, even having miners control the majority, a certain majority of the mining is a level of centralization because technically miners control the network, right? Obviously through governance, but again, those governance, the more concentrated the participation is, the more less governance, diversification you have. So in this case, it's very similar, where the pools are the ones that govern, because again, the pools, the more you stake, the more you can vote, or more your vote counts. And ultimately, this is where the imbalance begins, right? It's moderate from this aspect or this facet of centralization. It's moderate. And people argue that Cardano is one of the most decentralized protocols at the current moment from a proof of stake perspective. So this is what you got to do now. You got to really put it into perspective, into your context, and decide, is this okay? For me personally, I look at all kinds of different aspects, and you need to come up with a very broad a very broad idea, verdict. Let's put it that way. Treasury spending is controlled through an on-chain government under the Voltaire framework. Guys, treasury spending is under governance. I rarely see this. Rarely do I see a project that has a foundation, that has a treasury, that is willing to put it under governance in a DAO. Crazy. That's amazing. Okay. And this is where we get decentralized, right? So perfect. No VC unlocks, overhang, which is very typical of the L1s. None of that. That's what you get in from a mature L1. That's what you get for, a distribution that is based on performance and staking, that is emitted via staking rather than, just unlocks, random casual time-based unlocks, or block-based unlocks. That's what happens. You get all kinds of overhang and dilution when they get unlocked. And VCs that come in very, very early are going to be quick to sell on your head. This doesn't exist here. Okay, so that's a benefit, right? Obviously. Reward and treasury funded by transaction fees. So we know that that's the case. That's how the reward and the treasury get funded, by transaction fees. Design philosophy, very, very important. Something that needs to be highlighted because it's one of the biggest critical things that people are critical about when speaking of Cardano is the research first approach. That's why its ecosystem, its tech stack is slow moving in growth, because they want to make sure that it works. Measure once, measure twice, measure 3 times, measure 100 times, then implement, and then cut, if you get what I mean. That's what they're basically doing. So if you appreciate that, right, approach of making sure it's perfect before deployment, this is something that you should consider, right? Because ultimately, it is an opportunity to say, I have a level of trust that these people are doing their due diligence before releasing a software solution, instead of leaving, a block that, goes down, or a chain that goes down, or a network that goes down, like, and the force forks and all of this and exploits and all of that. Guys, this is what Cardano wants to do, is prevention method by measuring many times before implementation, and that defines their slow ecosystem growth. It is what it is, guys. This is very important, right? So I'm trying to just highlight some of the ideas here. ADA with the market cap of Sol. Of course, why not? One of the major competitors, different approach, not a research first approach, which is Solana, more of a do first and then fix it later. And it has been working for Solana because, again, Solana was able to get quick access to liquidity and action and all of that, but it had its issues, guys. Do you remember last a couple of years, total of 6 downtimes? Solana went down 6 times within like a short period, like about a year or a year and a half. Guys, crazy. Where's Cardano? None of that. Okay, so very important. Where do I say? If Cardano can catch up to Sol, I believe that can easily happen. And the price projection for me is about $2. It's a little bit higher than catching up to Sol, but we have to understand is if we look at the current Sol price and we look at the current Cardano price, both prices are being suppressed by the total market cap of the crypto space, which means a lot of capital left this space. About half of the total capital left this market in the last year or so. So what we have to understand is as the new capital comes in, I am expecting ADA to grow alongside Solana, but I'm also expecting ADA's ecosystem growth to encourage a little bit more action, because again, I think midnight might be the beginning. It's actually a decent implementation. Okay, so I'm going to give Cardano 9 out of 10 at this current moment. Is doing great. Of course, I'm hoping that the future is bright here for Cardano, because we need a little bit more ecosystem implementation. So let's see what happens there. All right, guys, I know you're here to talk about price action. So let's see what's going on here with the chart, because ultimately a lot of us are curious. What is going on with the Cardano price? What is it dependent on? Well, guys, it's dependent on the total market cap, as I mentioned. It is also dependent on Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, being the best marketing play for crypto, is currently on a downtrend. And that's a bit of a problem here as we see the altcoins sell off bit by bit. All right, guys, let's take a look at this in a bit more detail. Now, I just want to summarize here that Cardano, at the end of the day, had a great future, has a great future, but also has had a great history with the price action. Okay, so we just got to be very clear. As you can see, for those of you that have seen the past, this is where it came from. It pumped like crazy. This is where it made some great life-changing gains, not only for myself, but for a lot of people. And then earlier on this cycle, at the beginning, I have personally been trading Cardano very actively, and I made my journey very clear on not only on the Discord but through all my videos. Okay, so I released videos. Now I had to take a step back from trading Cardano because I overstayed my welcome. Why I say that is because I bought here, sold here, bought here, sold here, bought here, and obviously when this happened, things got a little bit hectic, because we thought, or I even thought, that we were ready to go. But as soon as I saw this lower high, I started selling some more. Now, did I sell it all completely? Absolutely not. I'm still underwater with whatever I have. And of course, a lot of us that are here are still underwater on a lot of our bags, guys. That's inevitable, right? But the mentality here is that we don't want to exit because that's also risky, not having any exposure. The question is now, do I re-increase my exposure here at the bottom of the range where I've done it once, twice, three times? Do I'm going to go again for the fourth time? Well, guess what, guys? We have no choice but to wait for character, market structure. We need to see some sort of change of character. Without it, we're gambling. And I'm not a gambler here, guys. That's not what I do. I look for statistical data to give me an edge. That's all I do, right? And I do it very carefully. Let's get back onto the daily. That's the weekly. As you can see, the daily still not downtrend as well. Lower lows and lower highs. This is interesting. Why? Because it resembles something to what happened here. What happened here was great. What happened here was great. But what happened here is, let's use this as fractal as an example. It was a trading moment. And I made it very, very clear many times on my live streams. Again, I'm live at 8 p.m. EST every single night. We talk about crypto news and price action. And I'm live all the time because I want to make sure everybody understands exactly what type of market we're in. And it is a trading market. If you got into this shift of structure and you got into here, and again, I always talk about these levels, this was a trade, not a hold, not a long-term hold. If you bought spot and you didn't take profit, okay, spot, you're underwater. It is what it is. But you can see what's being built here is some sort of channel or some sort of falling wedge. Okay, we got to be very clear what's building here, and we got to kind of track it, right? Now, because we saw structure here, are we also seeing a structure here? This structure looks interesting. Good volume, good volume. Nice node right here within this order block. Point of control achieved. Let's take a look at what Synergy Signal is saying. Guys, by the way, if you want to know more about Synergy Signal, links are in the description below. It is a custom oscillator that has been killing it, giving you shorts, shorts, shorts whenever they mattered. As you can see, shorts have been in your favor for the last little while. We're waiting for some longs to print at any moment, right? And just to quickly see, I want to see the settings, how strict they are right now. Yeah, I took off a bit of the strictness, so we'll leave it like that. We're waiting for some longs to trigger. Not getting them just yet. But from a spot perspective, guys, or even from a swing trade perspective, we need to see this change of character. So the selling is clear. Look at the volume. Look at the expansions. Keep on showing. Look at this volume, the order flow, bearish, bearish, bearish. A lot of negativity. Okay, let's drop again. 6 hour. This is where things get interesting, because now you have this trend line that you can deal with, right? You can see lower lows and lower highs. This is the most interesting thing, because if we can somehow replicate a bit of a shift of market structure here, which looks very clean right now, we can get into a trade. This printed the shorts, as you can see. Short, 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 bang. If you didn't take profit on that sweep, on that move, it is what it is. Beautiful. It gives you the entries. You got to baby your entries. You got to figure out. The good news is it didn't make a higher high yet. So maybe the trend is still going to be our friend. And that's why maybe we didn't get a long signal yet. Okay. So it requires a little bit of your own analysis. Synergy signals are going to hold your hand to a certain degree, but you got to be right on it. And you can see giving you good entries and perhaps even some exits here and there are not bad, right? So that's the ideal. And it's pretty accurate. Now, from a market structure perspective, look at this. This is my worry. It's not a worry. It's actually, this is what I would like to trade, right? And let's put another little line in here. I'm going to make this thinner so it doesn't clutter up the chart too much. Okay. I might as well make this one thinner too because I makes it look better. And there we go. Now, I think that some people might be quick to say, okay, this is the break, 100%. This is the break where we need to break above so we can fill this imbalance and get to the last order block. This is the trade. However, get yourself in a bearish stance for a second here, guys. What are the bears going to say right now? Well, they're going to say continuation. And rightfully so. Impulsive move, clear, volume, came in, quick reaction for profit-taking breathers, nice retracement, maybe a corrective move, A, B, C. And now what do we continue to the downside? This is a bear flag. It's undeniable, right? So the retail is going to get behind this, right? Retail, maybe some whales that, are still retail. Whales can be retail, by the way, okay? Heavy wallets, doing their thing. Now, what do we do next, right? So how do we play this? So let's just add a little bit more to this chart and identify this channel for a second. We'll just put one here, boom, and we'll fix this in a second. Put that here. You can see I try my best to keep my charts clean, but it doesn't always work out. There we go. That's good enough for me. Now, all of a sudden, if we can stay below 28 cents, guys, there's a good chance that we roll over here and we extend. Okay, so let me just put a line here so we can get that extension idea. I'll make this dotted so we know that this is a projection. Okay, this is the extension. This is where we're thinking we can extend downwards. However, guys, what about, and to do this even better, I'm just going to use one of this tool right here. Do this even better. What about if this becomes a failed breakdown or a swing failure? So let's hypothetically put that here and just leave this here for a second. And let's get rid of this line. And then we can talk about this further. Now, synergy signal, as you can see, just quickly before I close it down, this has been the expansion and it is slowly tapering to the upside. And we are slowly getting some bullishness right into here with a nice reactive response to the upside. Are we going to continue now in an uptrend with regards to expansions and momentum, which is, look at the momentum from here. The purple line came all the way down, fully reset. Now we're in an uptrend. Guys, it is in an uptrend. We're waiting for follow through. We're waiting for market structure shift. Let me explain what I mean now with the market structure. The way that we can look at this is this. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to put in one of these and assume that this is the bottom, that this is what we're waiting for, is downwards, lower lows and lower highs. And as the oscillators, like I showed you, are diverging to the upside, that's a divergence, we have to wait for a follow through. Until we get the follow through, anything can happen here in this price action, right? We can have a lot of noise here, right? But what we're waiting for is the rounded bottom eventually. So my concern is this, that maybe we do come down to hunt liquidity at this bottom. Hunt. It doesn't necessarily mean a lower low or even breaking below this body, okay? Or even if we do, maybe we come back and close again above 24, right? The reality is if we break below the wick, it's an actual swing to the downside or a extension. Does that extension fail? If it doesn't fail, we're still bearish. But if it fails, guys, and we can close back above into the range and we hold steady, and not only that, if we dip and even get back above eventually, where we start to see the price, first sweep the liquidity here, or maybe fill some of the limit orders down here that are lingering, the lingering liquidity down here. If we can sweep all of that and then eventually close back into these levels, guys, what we can possibly see is a failure of the bearish attempt. The failure of the bearish attempt is going to say to us, okay, now what? Let's see what the bulls have. Because if the bulls respond with strength based on that failed attempt, it's a good chance that this attempt is probably going to take us to range highs for the first target. which would be important because a lot of us will start looking at double bottoms and failed breakdowns. And not only that, that sets us up for a breakout trade. Now, what I would be looking for is at any given moment to DCA right around these levels and wait for your shift of market structure and slap stop losses below, down here or into here, depending on how low you want to go based on your risk to reward. And then ultimately what you're looking for is a breakout, giving you your next target, which is right through the imbalance. And then you start to say, dang, we can actually trade this. Again, trade it for a nice move to the upside into the last order block, of which you can take a bit of profit, trail up the stop loss well into profit, and see if it continues. If it doesn't continue, all good. Stop myself out into profit, took a little bit already, and generally speaking, you're walking away a profitable trader. But we need this evidence. We need this. If not, the risk you're taking is that this is a retracement and then we come down for a bear flag, continuation extension to the downside, and who knows how low we go. So we're at a level that we're still producing evidence to suggest a local bottom is here. And this is not exclusive to Cardano. This is across the space. So be patient. Track your channels, track your ranges, track your structure, and ultimately execute with patience. All right, guys, if I've offered you any value in this deep dive, do the channel a massive favor. Slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. If you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description. Better yet, guys, join the Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. Take care, guys. Have a good one. And don't forget, buy the dip.